If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribing will ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Level Up Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me once again, I have Josh. Josh, how are you doing today?
It's been busy. Been busy around here. I just like one thing after another after another. It's draining getting it all done on my own.
Well, it certainly helps if you have somebody else that you can lean on. You have anybody like that?
I do. My wife is very helpful, but like today, my daughter had like oral surgery. She lost the last of her baby teeth. It had to be forcefully removed from her face because she is just that much of a weenie.
Well, it happens. I look at as a father of young children, very young children, far younger than yours. I look into the future of the stories that you shared with me. I go, I wonder if any of these things are going to cross into my life. So I'm sure some analogous ones will.
Yeah, I think the big thing was that like she's got the braces, and they're like, we can't do the bottoms until they get the last tooth out. Blah 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 blah, and like it just wouldn't come out. So they're like, we're taking it out, and we get out of the they bring her out from the back. She's face is all puffy. She's got gauze in there, and the doctor's like, okay, now she can't have any hot food, she can't have any spicy food, and nothing that requires any like real chewing for the next like 12 hours. And I'm like, okay, well that's my entire meal plan for when I get home. But okay. So I take her to the grocery store and I'm like, I'm getting you ice cream because that's what you do when you have oral surgery. You get ice cream. Like whatever happens in there, you get ice cream. Now you need some soup. She's like, I don't want soup. I'm like, okay. I'm like, how about some nice pudding? I don't like pudding. I can make you some eggs or some oatmeal. That's awful. What do you want to eat? I want to eat spicy, chewy things. And I'm like, I
can't help you, kid.
I can't help you, kid. Teenagers. But no, it's important that when you're trying to do these things, you can work with a person that is not just like banging heads. Like, it was just me by myself in that store dragging around a teenager trying to get them to eat something proper. When it really would have been nice to have a partner that was like trying to focus on the same task.
Well, you've already now tried to segue us into this topic twice, so I'm gonna do it this time. This is the one. Let's talk about what it's like to have a partner and why it might be important to have a partner when you are writing. And it doesn't necessarily have to mean that you need a co-GM, but it's always good to have somebody who you can bounce ideas off of.
Yeah, but I mean, isn't tabletop gaming a collective storytelling experience anyway, Aaron?
It can be.
Yeah.
I mean, again, your entire table is technically your partners in generating your story. If you want to get real technical, Josh. But if you want to, as a GM, you can't let the players know that you're using them for ideas. Otherwise, it's sort of like kind of gives away the ghost.
Yeah. I mean, there is a little bit of tongue-in-cheek where a player suggests something, like, man, I hope this thing doesn't happen. And you're like, oh, hold on a second, and just, scribble stuff down behind your GM screen. Because that is very fun to like,
yes.
Don't say terrible things at the table because they will come to pass. But I think it's important that there is a separation between your players who are creating a personal narrative and you as the game master who is creating a world where they exist within.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very true, which is why typically you find like a collaboration or a group of collaborative GMs to kind of work with, so you can, um, bounce those ideas off onto the other GMs, or, in the case of Jared, he uses his wife, or somebody who is not connected. Again, the nice thing about Josh and I is that we both have different gaming groups, respectively. Yeah. So Josh can tell me anything that is going on in his gaming group, and I can tell you something that's going on in my gaming group, and we can sort of figure out the best. You can sort of get an idea of a good approach. So sort of we had DJ on a couple weeks ago for his one shot game. Trying to figure out how best to get him to the one shot or through the one shot and fix up some of the issues that you have, because you might get stuck. You might go, I don't know how to. I haven't thought of a good way to solve this problem, and another GM can look at it from another angle and just be like, oh, well, you should just do this. Yeah. Or you can do this or this and this. And like that's the beauty of having somebody who is a writing partner, or somebody who can you can filter ideas through or seek new ideas through.
Yeah, I think there's it's nice to have a writing partner that you can bounce ideas off, that can provide you with new ideas, give you like an insight. But I think it's also useful to have somebody to bounce ideas across, because they work as a mirror, right? They can point out weaknesses in your story. They can point out parts that are maybe repetitive, or things that you've done before. Because, as we've talked about before, we all have blind spots, right?
Yes.
And they're blind spots because we can't see them. And it's really nice to have somebody out there who can go and see those blind spots and give you like a little bit of direction, like, hey, you've already done that. But more so, if they're a good writing partner, they can be like, hey, you've already done that, or don't do it that way. How about you try this instead? And you can get past those hurdles. I like bouncing stuff off of you, Aaron, because like we have different gaming groups, but also I think we tell fairly different stories a lot of the time.
We definitely do tell different stories. And so like, again, I think that in that situation, it gives you, this is actually, you kind of see it when we do like the Let's Make a One Shots, really, is your ideas and my ideas kind of filtering together to create a very uniquely different story from something that I think either one of us would have come up with on our own.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, because again, you have your tendencies. While you were saying that, I thought to myself, in the last, somewhere in like the last 4 games that I ran, one of the ending sequences ended up with my players dodging like raining fireballs. And it wasn't until the 4th one that somebody brought up like, geez, Aaron really likes pelting us with fireballs from the sky. And I went, huh, I probably shouldn't do that again for a while.
Yeah, I get the I get the Josh likes killing us all, which, I mean, to be fair, they do wander into some terrible situations, half-cocked and without any sort of battle plan. And what am I supposed to do? Like, let them off easy? But it is that sort of like, I'm trying to assess that and write a story that is more narrative focused and less combat focused, so that they can, not hawk themselves to death. I don't know. They're probably going to end up murdered anyway. I'm just going to kill them. It's cool.
Again, if your players walk into the pit that says "Don't walk into this pit, you will die," it's kind of hard to not kill your players at that point. I don't feel like you're actively trying to do it. It's your players are taunting death. Death is going, well, it's going to happen today.
But I'll argue, Aaron, that if you had an effective writing partner, and be like, hey, what do you think about this? I put this giant pit of death in front. And your writing partner goes and says, yeah, but you didn't at any point say, hey, that's a giant pit of death in front of them. They just sort of end up there. And so your players might not notice that. You're like, oh, I didn't put signs up? I thought I put signs up.
Yeah, a funny thing from our group has been because in the past, like there had been times where we really like pushed the edge of the line to where like Jared would be like, we put ourselves in situations where Jared just really should have just killed us, and at some point he recognized that he was going to present us with like a conundrum like that. And he had to like explicitly break the fourth wall and be like, if you pursue this, you will die. it's like, okay. We know that is truly a pit of death. I mean, again, a lot of these things you can kind of, it's like you have your blind spots, but you sort of learn what players do and the tendencies you have as you progress through games. You have to tell a lot of games to do that. The nice thing about a writing partner is that you can sort of filter out those problems faster and sooner. And so, like you said with the pit of death, if you hadn't explicitly called it a pit of death, do you need all of your pit of deaths to be pit of deaths if your players decide to walk into them? And the answer is no. And somebody else can effectively tell you, well, this is what you can do to kind of warn your players. The next time you do something like this, going to result in your death. Is, it's a stern warning, and then let's see if we can direct the players into maybe not just being like, okay, so this is our really half-cocked plan. We're gonna go bust through that door, and we're gonna loose our crossbows at everybody in the room. All right, and anybody else who's left standing, we're gonna fight them. We're gonna fight them to death. And it's like, but that's what's behind that door is Vecna, right?
Like there is pure death behind that wall, and maybe just another voice, just somebody else telling you. Yeah, I think that noticing the direction your players are going in, there's going to be that same sort of blind spot for your players that it is for your own personal writing. So if your players aren't working together to sort of be like, to look at each other's blind spots, they didn't pay attention to the story, they didn't see the warnings that you put up, they're going to have the same issue. Your players should be working together. But at the same time, it's really nice for a more cohesive, more fleshed out stories to work with somebody yourself. And that's just what I'm saying here. I think another useful thing that we don't talk about as much when we talk about a writing partner is not just that, the narratives can be a little different. We can focus and find our missing parts, make sure that things are labeled properly, make sure that the clues that we thought we left are actually, obvious and are able to be interpreted as clues and not just like random fluff in the world. But writing partners can also have, they can provide a different life experience or a different voice for like NPCs. Now, I don't know if you have recognized this, but me and Aaron are fairly similar in socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds to some extent. We don't have the life experience that people outside of the white middle-aged male Midwestern experience. So somebody outside of that experience might provide, I'm absolutely certain, would provide a different viewpoint on some of the things that we can talk about, especially in a game. And NPCs or characters in a story that are all from your same viewpoint are going to get samey. They're going to look at situations the same way. They're going to have at some point you're going to repeat, and you can try as you might to make unique NPCs, but if you don't have the life experience or you haven't talked to people with those life experiences, you're not necessarily going to build the most nuanced characters. And it's great to have those other voices in your story because it makes a more interesting world.
Yeah.
So
No, I mean, sorry. Go
ahead.
No. You first, sir.
Oh, okay. I will. I was just going to say that you don't have to necessarily, include every person you meet as a writing partner, but talking to people and understanding where they're coming from, and then incorporating that can also be very helpful. And that is a writing partner, even if they're not at the table writing with you.
It's like drawing inspiration from different things that you see. And I'm not saying like that's not, you can tangentially refer to that as a writing partner. A writing partner is almost somebody that you can be like, I feel like a writing partner, you truly do have to be comfortable enough to talk about the hobby with somebody. So, for the longest time, I didn't talk about D&D with anybody, for a very, very long time. It's just because it was just a hobby that I did with my friends, and I knew that they did the hobby, and that's what I did. And so you might feel uncomfortable talking about it, but like if you're able to talk about it with somebody, it's something where you can tell somebody this story, or you can simply say that I am writing a story and this is what's happening in the story, and you can draw on the experience of somebody else to be able to say like, oh, this is an idea, or this is an idea. And again, everyone has a baseline level of creativity to them that is able to be drawn upon, or ideas on how to solve problems. Some people solve them very simply, some people have more complex things, and some people have very interwoven like intertwined story things that they can do to help with writing there. But I mean, everybody's got that ability to be able to, if you're willing to share the story that you're writing, somebody's going to be able to bring in their perspective on what you're doing, or just think they might just say that that's interesting. And if that's the case, I'm not going to say that they're a bad writing partner, but perhaps they agree with the direction that you're going in. You're not going to have everybody be like, you know what, this is what you should do. Yeah,
So,
it's always some people will agree, some people will give you different perspective on different stuff that you have going on. And again, being able to draw on the experience of different people that you meet can help you expand your world overall, which I think is very important to be able to do, because yes, your NPCs, you don't want them to be too samey. You don't want all your NPCs to be agreeable. Okay, like I can give you the really simple ones. Like you don't want all your NPCs to be agreeable, so you need to have some variation in degrees of agreeableness, and degrees of like friction that people get from talking to different NPCs. And at that baseline, you can expand how much different you want your NPCs and things to be in your world. It's again, it's a very, very interesting thing. Again, being able to draw inspiration from stuff, but having somebody who can help point out that things are similar in your story is very important in terms of being able to realize that you need to incorporate other things. Also, having like for example with Josh here, I told Josh about the ending of one of my stories, and I couldn't understand why one of my players simply hadn't done something with something I gave them in the story. And Josh was able to levy like really good insight into why that might not be obvious to that person, even given like all the context clues I gave them. So like it was really, really helpful to kind of understand that and be like, okay, so I see like if I want to do this like trope again, or this this sort of situation again, I have to really either spell things out differently, or I have to accept that, they might simply like negate the things that I'm giving them within the story. Like, stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, and I like that secondary perspective, because you might not be able to, even like a post game sort of breakdown is great to have with your players. It is. I always recommend, the after game, hey, check in with your players, see what they liked, see what they had problems with, see if they understood what was going on. It's not always possible, but it's extremely helpful if you've got that writing partner, somebody that knows your story, that knows the parts of the story your players don't know, and be like, hey, this is what happened. What do you think? I think they missed this. I think they missed that, or I think they did this really well, or they're picking this up too quick. And somebody else, somebody outside of your own experience, outside of your own head, can bounce that back to you and say, like, well, this is why. You didn't lay this out right, or you know, I know these people, they do it, they're going to see it this way, and you're just looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at it as you and not as them. And that's really, it's been helpful for me to bounce ideas back and forth, even post game, to make sure that I'm getting my story straight, that I'm heading in the direction that I expect it to be. So yeah, writing is great. Coming up with a thing is great, but like working with somebody or just having that voice is so useful for making the game like work for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, like that perspective, it's invaluable in terms of, like, you just said it right there, that you might have context, like, again, 'cause we have players that cross over in our groups, and so you have context and idea on like how other players see things, and it's more about like, oh well, this is probably something that they see. The other thing too is that, like, more times than not, my players will just forget something that I brought up.
Well, I mean, they've got jobs, they've got lives. The game was only once a week, and but taking notes is really hard, man. You got to like listen and not be on your phone one.
But it's not even that. Had they even taken notes, like I did a little exercise with Jared on this podcast a long time ago where we went through a scene about context clues. So Jared we were doing an investigation talking about context clues. Jared said something in that scene. I glossed over it in the very moment that we're doing this podcast. And he pointed it out later. Oh, by the way, I said this thing, which could have been a clue for you to pick up on. Okay. And, like the idea there is that your players will hear you. You're the storyteller. You're going to say a bunch of stuff. You're going to narrate. You're going to give descriptions. You're going to give context to the situation they're in, make rules calls, all sorts of different things that go along with that. And then your players are going to are just going to miss things that you say. They're just not going to even like hear all things that you say to them. And it happens, like, think about your work. Like, I mean, I'm in meetings and somebody will say something and I won't hear it, or I won't be like completely focused in that moment. I got to be like, what was that again? Like, I got no idea what you just
Oh
said.
yeah, all the time.
Okay. But in game, a lot of times my players won't do. They won't say like, "Well, what did you just say?" Like, or I missed that. Like, is that important? They'll just ignore the part that they forgot about because it's part of the narration, and then they just later on when the game's over and I go into it and I'm telling the player about something, they're like, "I totally forgot about that." Like, I totally didn't even put two and two together with that.
So, what do you think makes a good writing partner? What should our listeners look for when they're going to find a writing partner?
I won't look at your notes, so I'll come up with my own things here. For me, a good writing partner is really just anybody that can give you some level of insight into the story that you're telling or describing. So whether it is, hey, I think that's a great idea, that seems really cool, or no, like, or like, well, so here's some things you could do. I never want somebody to write the next chapter in my story. I still want it to be my story, but I might be looking for ideas on what to do, or like, oh, what might be some of your approaches on like where to go next, sort of thing. And so I could incorporate those ideas into my story through my writing style. So that's for me.
Okay. Somebody that has insight into your story. I think I like that. It reminds me of the whole thing that popped in my head when I was first pitching this topic was when my wife was doing her dissertation. While I have not gone to class or taken any of the uh, uh, PhD level uh, classes for social work. I was the one that did all of the flashcards and went through and, worked on her notes and quizzed her for tests and stuff like that. So when she was doing her dissertation, she gave me uh, her dissertation to go through and like check the voices, make sure that the paragraphs made sense. And while a lot of the work was very heady, because I had some background on it, I was able to clean up some of the wording and verbiage. Um, and I think it's very important, that somebody who you are working with not only understands the subject, uh, you know, your tabletop game, whatnot, but they actually can they can point out and make useful comments on what's going on. Um, like I could definitely tell my wife's verbiage in some of the paragraphs, but like the actual concepts, oh, completely lost on me. So it's a good thing she had other people also helping her. I was able to get the grammar there, but that's about as much as I could do in some of those parts. I think it's very useful that somebody's enthusiastic about writing with you as well. Um, Somebody who is willing to, but under duress. Don't press gang a friend into writing with you. You're not going to get good help on that. Um, it's just not good. Somebody that's interested in writing with you, somebody that wants to do something, that's great. And it is a two-way street. Somebody helps you with something, make sure that you're there to help them.
Yes, definitely.
I think you should also have somebody you can get along with. I think that's very useful. Don't go and look for a different voice just to be a different voice. If you don't get along with the person, you are not going to get much work done.
Yes, yeah, you don't want to be arguing with the person about, your finer points of your story or something nuanced in your story. You want them to be it's supposed to be a happy activity when you game. You should make sure that the collaboration effort in designing your game is also a happy activity instead of one that is miserable and unenjoyable. So definitely don't choose a bad writing partner.
Well, I mean, I did put a note in here about somebody you can argue with, but I want to be specific in that it is a constructive argument. I think, you know, if you've got a writing partner that just agrees with everything, that's not helpful either. You want somebody that can be like, no, do it differently, but in a way that's not wienery. I don't know what's a good way to say just like that it is constructive. I mean, it is something that you both are going to understand is not an attack on one or the other, but it is in fact
It's not an antagonistic argument.
yes.
You're arguing about perhaps a detail or like a best way to do something. And again, I'm trying to think of like what that argument like might look like, but like it's not like you give this game, you're like, well, that's a terrible idea for a game. You shouldn't ever run that game like that. And let me tell you X, Y, Z, Y. And then you're gonna have to sit there and defend your game. And now you're in a defense versus like opposition argument
Yeah.
over your game. Like that's not useful. Um,
At the same time, you could be like, I don't think that's a good way to run that game, but I like where you're coming from. What can we do to make it work? Is that's the proper way to argue that. That's not the you suck and you know turn in your GM card. It's hey, I don't think that's going to work. Why don't we try something different?
I mean, I suppose if they come up with a horrible
effective.
idea, you can tell them that sucks and turn in your GM card.
Yeah, well, I mean, you still need to call in and make sure that the council of GMs approves this person being banned for life.
Yeah, you better put in your 5931 form to, really appeal.
Oh man, I do need to get my GM certification back. I've got my deltas lined up. So anyway, it is important that you are able to work with somebody, that they are collaborative with you, that they know the subject, that they're interested in telling the story with you or working with you, that you are willing to help them back, and that they can provide a different viewpoint, that they don't just agree with you, but that they work with you.
You don't want to find somebody who's completely like you or likes telling the same exact type of game that you like telling. And that that's really unproductive, besides really ingratiating yourself about how great of a GM you are. So if you want an ego boost, go find somebody who agrees completely with you.
Oh yeah, you can just like, I don't know, tell a story to ChatGPT or something. Every time you're like, nope, that's how it works. And they're like, yes, you're great, wonderful, do that. Don't just
don't use. I would not suggest to use ChatGPT as your writing partner, because it is a mirror of you. Okay, so that is why you shouldn't use it as your writing partner. Not because it can't, be a useful tool. Go back to our AI episode, and maybe we'll touch on that more now that I've used it a little bit more in games. But it's not a writing partner. It's not a person personified, and you'll have better success with something else.
Just do a quick aside on some of these AI engines as writing partners. One of the things we talked about before was that you want a writing partner so that you don't repeat yourself, so you don't do the same thing in every one of your games because you have the same twists.
Yep.
I have found that when asking for ideas from like ChatGPT or Claude or one of these other ones, they tend to suggest the same thing every time, or use the same names or similar thing. Like because when you ask for like a random blah blah blah, it looks for commonalities, and that is the exact problem we're trying to avoid when we're looking for a writing partner, so that we're not doing the same things over and over and over, so that we're not like getting into that rut. And the fact that with some AI engines, if you ask them similar questions, you're going to get the same answer every time, or just similar. I mean, it's not perfectly the same every time because there is a little bit of, noise, but the same sort of things going on each time is rather hilarious. So anyway.
Go back to our AI episode. You'll see that in spades.
Certainly. And so let's say we do have a writing partner. I think it's useful to have a little bit of how to work with a writing partner, how to avoid some of those issues that might come up. Now, I know between the two of us, the first thing that we do, especially when we're doing the one-shots, is it's compromise. I make a suggestion, you make a suggestion. We either pick one that's going to be obviously better, or we combine the two of them, which in itself is better. I think compromise is a extremely useful tool when collaborating, and having the ability to step back and let somebody else into your space and then collaborate with them requires compromise.
Yes. So again, it depends on what the goal of your writing partner is. So if you are seeking a writing partner to craft a game that you two come up with, then compromise is extremely important. If you are seeking a writing partner to augment your game or work through problems in your game or try and just seek another voice to help you enhance your game, then the compromise is your level of comfort as to what you want to compromise into your game, because they're not going to tell the game. They were there to be a sounding board and kind of the workshop the ideas with. So the compromise is important still there, but it's less important because you get to choose what you want to keep. But if you're going to tell a game that you two wrote together, then the compromise is number one, the most important thing, because you can't tell that story without both of your ideas. And that's how the Let's Make a One Shot works together. I just wanted to point that out as a minor difference with the compromise thing.
Well, I think that if I was writing a story and I wanted to present it to somebody else to take a look at things, I would, and I think this is useful, is set some anchor points. Like, these are the points that I want. And if those are the points that I want, this is the the base outline of my story, the bare bones. And when I'm looking for a writing partner, I'm looking for somebody to help me maybe make sure that I'm getting to those bare bones, that the parts in between make sense, that the bare bones themselves, in the order in which I've laid them out, make sense. And I think, compromise doesn't just mean they suggested something, so we're going to throw out my thing. It's, they suggested something. Can we incorporate that? Can we make this work? I think as a game master, when you're telling a story with your players, there is a little bit of that compromise that has to happen with your players as well, because they are invested in the world. But yeah, if it's your story, it's your world, you are still setting those rules. You don't throw out all of your story points just because somebody suggests something else. But if somebody can give you a valid reason why a story point needs to be in a different place, or to get to a different story, to the story point in a different way, like, don't just dismiss them because it was your writing in the beginning. It's going to be useful to figure out why somebody has that different viewpoint, which is the whole point of having a writing partner, I think. Find out
yes,
why.
I'm not saying to dismiss any ideas that were put out there, but again, it all ultimately comes out to what your objective is from the writing partner. If it's to actually incorporate any, all, or some, or all ideas, then compromise is very, very necessary. Because you're working together to craft the scene or the story or the narrative.
Yeah, I think it's important that you're on the same page on what points need to be compromised and what points shouldn't be. Because if you're fighting about stuff that doesn't, one of you thinks is a flexible point and the other one doesn't, you're not going to get any work done together. So,
yes.
Take a step back.
Also, the other thing too is that if you're going to use a writing partner, and I'm looking at your notes here, just trying to see something, I didn't see it here, but make sure that you're comfortable with the ideas that they're recommending to tell. Not just like you're comfortable in terms of like the subject matter, but like more comfortable in like, can I effectively tell that scene, or accurately convey this scene or this story, these story points that your partner has given to you. So I mean, you want to make sure that there is a comfortability factor within that, and that's why knowing the more you know someone, the better it is to be able to kind of work through that, so you can kind of work through pushing yourself out of your comfort zone to an extent, but also not doing something that you're like, I've never told a story like this, or I've never done a scene like this. Like, I just don't really know how I would even like narrate it. Those are important things that you kind of got to be able to work through with a writing partner.
Yeah. So that brings me to the last point that I put on my worksheet here. Do you have any fun projects, partner activities to get people started? People who haven't done writing with a partner before?
I don't usually with you. I just like, gosh, this is what I'm doing. But tell me what's up. Or like, I have a friend who I haven't seen in quite a while, but he also does storytelling, and I ask him, "Hey, what's up? Like, what do you think about this? Or, what are your thoughts with this thing? Or what might you do?" And just kind of shoot around the ideas and see what comes of it. You have some more structured things here.
Yeah.
Obviously, we have the Let's Make a One Shot series. So if you know somebody who you want to make a one shot with, or do something like that, it's a very easy thing to do. Follow our formula. It's pretty straightforward, but
it works. It's real helpful. Like we've brought people in for single episodes to make a one shot, and they're like a fish to water. It's real easy. I like this is something I used to do was writing a paragraph, just a paragraph. Start a paragraph, you drop into a random world, and then you send that paragraph to your writing partner and have them write a paragraph and send it back. And you just keep flipping it back and forth and just continuing a story and just see where it goes. Because if you're only doing a paragraph at a time, and you need to make sure you're not like writing a whole novel paragraph. You write one paragraph, it's only a snippet of a scene. It's a action, it's a emotion. It is a character doing something, and when you leave the rest of it up to the other person to be like, okay, what happens next? It can go in places you didn't expect, and it's very fun. It's interesting, and as long as you aren't like super invested in it, then it's not like feelings get hurt. It's just an interesting way to tell a story. It's not going to be a good story. Don't expect it to come out and win any awards, but it's a useful experience where you can see, how does this other person tell a story? How do I tell a story? Do I give enough breadcrumbs for them to continue with what I was thinking about? Or can I pick up breadcrumbs from even their smallest bits so that I can move forward with something? And that'll make you a better partner. It'll make you a better storyteller. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Do you have anything else you want to add to this one, Josh?
I think the last thing I would like to say is, just because you don't consider somebody a writing partner because you're not like sitting down and writing with them, if you have somebody you share your writings, your stories with, and you just like talking to them about it, that is a writing partner. Even if they're not sitting there and you don't think they're giving you suggestions, if they're listening to you and they're talking to you about it, you are building a story with them. And, thank that person.
Yeah, definitely. Thank that person. Just like you thank our podcast, they'll like it and subscribe. So if you have any thoughts on writing partners, let us know. levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. The podcast is on all your favorite podcast sites or YouTube if that's your listening medium. So go ahead and subscribe to the podcast, review it, recommend it to a friend, and all those good things. And that'll wrap us up for the week. So for Josh, I'm Aaron. Have a good week, everyone.